Hey gang, Chonky here. Today I want to go over the specifics of the Halloween event that's currently going on. My last video was me just going over the patch notes, and just kind of touching base on what exactly is in the event. Today I want to show you the bosses, give you tips on how to beat them and show you how I beat them, show you all of their locations, and then I was going to show you all of the skins that you can get in the Halloween event. And then I've got a couple tips at the end of the video for any people who are struggling. Well, first of all, the currency for the event is the candy apple, and you get 4 of them per boss on Nightmare. I think you get 3 on hard, and I'm not sure how many you get on normal. But we're gonna focus mainly on Nightmare because that's where you can find the pumpkin heads. The pumpkin heads are the extra bosses that you can fight. So the pumpkin heads are 2 secret bosses. They're not really secretive. They hide out in the open. But if you lose to it once, either one, they will disappear. And then if you want to refight them, you have to start the dungeon completely over. So we have Pumpkinhead and Little Pumpkinhead. And Pumpkinhead, the big guy, is more of a brawler. He has a lot of rogue moves and maybe some champion moves thrown in there. He is in your face, tons of damage, lots of CCs, and he is just all over the place, super strong. Little Pumpkinhead has about half the HP, doesn't really have much CC, but has incredibly powerful spells. I was getting one shot on my wizard, who is, level 540 and has like 14,500 HP. So now I'm going to go over all of the locations for the Pumpkinheads in all of the dungeons, starting with the Crypt of Horrors and going through them in order. So in the Crypt of Horrors, you can find Big Pumpkinhead right before the Karg fight. He's literally standing right in the doorway of Karg. After Karg, and actually after Lady Everline, you'll find Little Pumpkinhead right at the entrance of the vampire area. You just walk down the hallway, go through the first set of doors, and then you'll see Little Pumpkinhead right there in front of you. In the Dark Hollow, you can find the Little Pumpkinhead first. He's found right before Cthulhu. You go into the area a little bit, and then where you would normally go right to find Cthulhu, you find Little Pumpkinhead. And a little bit farther into the dungeon, literally like 2 or 3 rooms later, you'll find Big Pumpkinhead in the room with the reluctant blacksmith. I don't know what to call this room, but you'll find him right there, right in the beginning. In the grasslands, you can find Little Pumpkinhead at the base of the tower where you fight Warlock Eorin. And you can find Big Pumpkinhead right outside in the plaza, right outside of Jurin's tower, like right next to that fountain. In the lair of the Kyranids, you run into Big Pumpkinhead first. He's right after Maul the Hungerer in the second floor of the room that has like the spiral upwards where Hashushu's at the top. He's right before, I think it's Anketerun. I don't know how to pronounce his name. And then Little Pumpkinhead, is found at the top of the stairs right after you beat Ondo Seekum. He's right through the doorway, you can't miss him. In the Icy Depths, you run into Little Pumpkinhead first. He's right at the second minecart lever. You'll find him chilling with the other goblins off on the side. And then a little bit further into the level, you'll find Big Pumpkinhead right next to where you see Necromancer Pert. He's also right before the Migion, right in that area. In the Dreadforge, you run into Little Pumpkinhead first, right after you beat Yarmog and Drawlshy. Once the path starts to go downwards to Overlord Ferg, you'll see him sitting right there in a group of guys. And then later into the dungeon, you find Big Pumpkinhead in the Dreadforge room itself, right in front of the Dreadforge. And in the Festering Bog, you can find Little Pumpkinhead right outside the Enraged Forest, right where that T intersection is. He'll normally be right there. And Big Pumpkinhead, once you beat Warlord Torgoth and open up the village area, He's right before the town council, like right in that village square near the blacksmith, surrounded by all those husks. Now, going over the combat for each of them is pretty tricky. I have some of the best gear in the game. My character's very high level, and I still struggle with them fighting solo. If you party up, it's a little bit easier, because the only time that they will despawn is if they do a whole party kill. So if you die and your friend is still alive, you can make it back to the fight and keep it going. But I'll try to give some tips for if you're playing it solo. So first things first, I would recommend bringing your consumables that give you an increase to armor and an increase to magic resistance. I believe it's Lena's Supper and a Feast of Kings. And then make sure you have your class potion active. I'm going to be showing you the fights in the grasslands because that is the best place to farm them, since they are right around the same area where you would farm the tier 1 fragments. You just spawn in, rush Aoran's tower to fight Little Pumpkinhead, and then turn around, head over to Jurin's tower, fight Big Pumpkinhead, rinse repeat, regardless if you win or lose. But right before the fight, you can see that I have all my consumables active, as well as any passives that I need to have turned on. I'm maintaining a safe distance so that I can fire off a quick spell really quick and get some early damage, which is very much needed for this fight. There are 2 moves you want to look out for mainly. You want to look out for Little Pumpkinhead's Chaos Orb, and you want to look out for his Ice Storm, the same thing that King Duskborn does in the Icy Depths. The Chaos Orb will pretty much one-shot you, and the Glacial Storm will kill you in about a second and a half if you have 15,000 HP. It's pretty crazy. Other than that, you're just going to want to stay mobile, making sure that you keep your HP topped off at all times. You do want to be careful for when Little Pumpkinhead summons a Shadow Demon. That's one of the moves he can do, and the Shadow Demon will stun you. So, as you can see right there, the Shadow Demon ran by and died to some of my AoE, which is nice. Because if he stuns you, Little Pump can kill you almost instantly. But you want to keep moving, staying out of his spells, staying away from the Ice Storm. The Tornado does hurt, but it's not impossible to survive in. As you can see, I almost died right there in the storm. And just kind of stay active. Just keep pelting him with damage. As long as you don't die, you can keep the fight going. Make sure your HP always stays topped up. It is very important. And then eventually he'll go down and you can get the chest for 40 apples. There's also, you can tell when he's going to do the Chaos Orb because he'll do the wind-up like a normal wizard would. So you can, if you are quick enough, you can get out of the way because it is a line shot. Once he releases it, it just kind of goes forward. So if you back up and start dodging to the side really quick, you can avoid the Chaos Orb. But otherwise, that's pretty much how I handle the Little Pumpkinhead fight. Now when it comes to Big Pumpkinhead, I like to clear out all the baddies in the little area right before him. And then once you have most of the guys dead around you, I like to fire off a long-range spell. Champion can't do that, but everybody else should be able to. And then just start the fight. Now my strategy with Pumpkinhead is kind of the same with Little Pumpkinhead. It isn't as important to keep your HP topped off because he doesn't necessarily do moves that will one-hit you. More so, I would look out for his phase port when he goes and stuns you from behind, because then he can hit you with like phased carnage and a combo and knock you down pretty quickly. So I just like to make sure I can cycle through my heals pretty effectively with my wizard, making sure I have either my cauterize or my full rejuve pot available. And you just got to play smart, mind your cooldowns, run around. If you can stay away from him for a second, he won't be able to hit you because he has no ranged attacks. He's got a pretty sweet dash that'll close distance. But yeah, you mainly want to watch out for that phase port so that you don't get stunned. Because the same with Little Pumpkinhead, the moment you're stunned, you just leave yourself open to take a lot of damage really fast. Now, I think that they're equally difficult for different reasons. I think that the Big Pumpkinhead is harder for the wizards because it seems to take less damage from magic, whereas Little Pumpkinhead dies pretty quickly. Big Pumpkinhead does have a lot of HP though, so when I tried fighting him on my Cleric, I just couldn't burst him down fast enough. But with the wizard, it's not too bad. So if you have a higher damage class like a rogue, ranger, or wizard, you might be able to farm them a little bit easier. But here you can see I finally have whittled him down and he's about to fall. Once he dies, he will drop his own chest worth 40 candy apples, just like Little Pumpkinhead. Now, going over the skins that you can unlock in the Halloween event, there are 3 skins per class, and then a special pumpkin hat, and I will show you all of them. For the champion, there are 3 skins. You have the one-handed shield. You can unlock this for 150 candy apples. You have the two-handed greatsword, spectral greatsword for the champion. This one is 250 apples. And then the new skin is a two-handed demon greatsword, also worth 250 candy apples. Kind of like the weapon that Malarath uses in the Festering Bog. And then for the cleric skins, you have the one-handed spectral hammer, worth 150 apples. You also have the two-handed spectral great hammer. This one's worth 250 apples. And then you have the new skin, the Titan Shield, and this is worth 150 candy apples as well. You'll notice it's kind of like a reskin of the Spectral Shield for the champion, but it looks pretty badass when it's all filled in and colored. Cool. Next we have the Ranger. You have the one-handed crossbow. You can dual wield them. Looks pretty snazzy for 150 candy apples. Then you have the Spectral Great Bow. This is 250 candy apples. And then you have the new two-handed great bow, which is called Death Notes. It's a great bow. And this is worth 250 candy apples as well. Then going into the rogue weapons. First you have the one-handed spectral axe for 150 apples. You have the one-handed spectral dagger, also worth 150 apples. And then you have the brand new one-handed sword, the Sword of Gaia's. And this is also 150 apples. Pretty cool for rogues. All of their skins are the cheaper kind. 150 apples for all 3. Not bad. And for the wizard, you have the one-handed spectral knife, worth 150 apples. You have the two-handed spectral staff, and this is 250 apples. And then finally, the brand new skin, which is the two-handed Vineland staff. This is 250 apples as well. There's also a cool little hat you can get called the Pumpkinhead. It does not give you any stats, so putting it on for high-level dungeons is not really recommended. But what it does is when you're wearing this hat, if you do an auto attack, it will summon a cool little skeleton buddy who will fight things and draw aggro sometimes. It doesn't do hardly any damage, but it is cool to have, and you can, always just wear it for funsies and put it in the bank when you're not running the dungeon to make sure you don't accidentally salvage it. Now, if you are unable to beat the Pumpkinheads, don't worry. They are extremely overtuned bosses. They are the hardest fights in the game. It's understandable if you can't beat them. They are incredibly difficult. So I wanted to give some tips on other ways that you could use to farm candy apples instead of trying to farm the Pumpkinheads over and over and over. My first recommendation, if you want to farm candy apples, is to either clear the entire grasslands as quickly as you can, or just run the route. If you're going solo, run the route that you would to farm Tier 1 Elite Fragments. I'll put a link in the video below. You could farm, 5 bosses in like 3 minutes, and that'll get you 20 candy apples in a couple minutes. So it's not a bad way to farm candy apples. If you are able to beat the Festering Bog, but don't want to farm Pumpkinheads, you can kill every single boss in the Festering Bog to get bonus chests at the end of the dungeon when you beat Malarath. So not only will you get candy apples for each boss that you slay, you will also get an extra 4 chests when you beat Malarath. So you'll get the 4 candy apples for beating him, and then you'll get another, 16 candy apples extra just for beating the dungeon. However, if you are dead set on defeating at least one of the Pumpkinheads, I have a little tip to let you claim victory over Little Pumpkinhead. If you go to the lair of the Kyranids and you grab the buff from the Widow of the Web, she will give you double your HP. So whatever your HP is, max HP, she will double it. And then if you can survive the journey into the dungeon to get to Little Pumpkinhead, you can fight him with double your normal HP, and then you have a much better chance. I only suggest if you really want to take down one of the Pumpkinheads, because it feels really rewarding to beat them. They are, like I said, incredibly friggin' difficult to kill. Now, other than that, guys, I think that is gonna just about cover it for this Halloween event. They didn't really announce an end date, but I can't imagine it going much farther than Halloween, so we still have another 2.5 weeks. Get out there and do some farming if you can. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Catch my next video, which should be the crafting of my level 20 rogue set. And I'm very much looking forward to it. And then after that, we'll have the champion. And then I have some other videos that I have ideas that I want to work on, including maybe demonstrating a possibility of using the pious set with the Cleric, now that there's new abilities. But anyway, that's another video for another day. My name's Chonky. See ya.